So, I want you to picture a place where gold is literally flowing through the streets. We're talking about the absolute wealthiest city in the ancient world, Babylon.
Right.
It's the absolute peak of civilization. You've got the hanging gardens, these massive towering walls, just absolute opulence everywhere you look. But here is the thing, and it looks suspiciously like the modern world, despite all that money floating around. Most people were just broke.
It really is kind of the original tale of income inequality, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You had this city awash in gold, yet the average chariot builder or soldier was scraping by, basically living paycheck to paycheck, or I guess copper coin to copper coin.
Copper coin to copper coin, exactly. Yeah. And that really brings us to the central question of the source material we are covering today in this deep dive. Why is it that some people work hard their entire lives and end up with nothing, while others just seem to attract wealth effortlessly?
Right. Is it luck?
Is it favor from the gods? Or, and this is what we're really getting into, is it a system?
And to answer that, we are diving into The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, for you listening, don't let the title fool you into thinking this is just a collection of dusty fables. The source material is actually presented as translations of ancient clay tablets that were found by archaeologists.
Right, so we aren't just reading a dry economics textbook here. We've got, chariot builders, camel traders, moneylenders. It feels a bit like an ancient soap opera at times.
Yeah, it really does.
But every single scene is a masterclass in economics.
Completely. And our mission today is to sort of strip away all that archaic language, all the these and thous and the sand-swept setting, to reveal what the text calls the laws of gold.
The laws of gold. I like that.
Yeah, these are practical, highly mathematical, and honestly behavioral rules for acquiring, keeping, and growing wealth. And what's fascinating here is that despite the setting being thousands of years old, these economic principles are startlingly relevant right now.
They really are.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this. We start with this core realization, right? We meet these two guys, Bansir and Kobe. Bansir is a chariot builder, Kobe is a musician, and they have a major problem.
A very relatable problem.
Very. They are highly skilled, they work incredibly hard, but they are flat broke.
They really represent that common, everyday frustration. Bansir is actually sitting on a wall, staring at a half-finished chariot, just totally depressed. He tells Kobe about this dream he had the night before where he was rich. He was tossing silver to beggars, wearing fine tunics, finally feeling secure.
And then he wakes up.
Right. He wakes up and his purse is completely empty.
That is such a brutal reality check. I know most people can relate to that feeling of waking up and realizing the financial anxiety is still sitting right there on your chest. So they decide to actually do something about it. They realize they grew up with a guy named Arkad, who is now known as the richest man in Babylon.
And this is the key friction point of the whole setup. They note that they all started from the exact same place.
Right. Arkad wasn't royalty.
Exactly. He wasn't smarter than them in school. They played the same games in the streets. So they go to him and basically ask, Arkad, why did the gods pick you? Why are we struggling to buy bread while you're swimming in gold?
I love Arkad's response here. He doesn't say, I got lucky, or I just hustled harder than you guys. He tells them his backstory. He was a lowly scribe, literally carving records into clay tablets for hours until his eyes burned.
He was working incredibly hard, but getting absolutely nowhere. Until he strikes a deal with a man named Algamish. Now, Algamish was a very wealthy moneylender who came to the scribe hall one day to order a specific carving.
So it's the classic trade labor for wisdom. Arkad agrees to pull a massive all-nighter to finish this carving job for Algamish. And in exchange, Algamish agrees to tell him the secret to wealth.
So the sun comes up, Arkad is totally exhausted, and Algamish drops the first, most fundamental principle of the entire book. He looks at him and says, a part of all you earn is yours to keep.
Okay, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. It sounds so simple, like almost too simple. And Arkad didn't get it at first either, right? He looked at the guy and basically said, well, isn't everything I earn mine to keep?
And that is the trap. Algamish corrects him immediately. He asks him, do you not pay the garment maker? Do you not pay the sandal maker? Do you not pay for your food?
Right.
If you spend everything you earn, you are essentially a slave working for everyone else. You're working for the landlord, the grocer, the tailor. You are literally the only one in the chain not getting paid.
That shifts the perspective entirely. So the rule isn't just a generic save money, it's pay yourself first. Before you pay the bills, before you buy the groceries, you pay yourself.
Precisely. And the math here is very specific. It's the 1/10 rule. No matter how little you earn, you must set aside at least 10%, 1/10 of your income. And Alchemist uses this really powerful metaphor here. He tells Arkad that every piece of gold you save is a slave that works for you.
And what about the interest?
Those are the children of the slave. And they work for you too. It's basically compound interest, explained through this idea of building an army of golden workers.
That's such a great way to visualize it. You're not just hoarding cash, you're building a workforce. But Bansir and Kabi bring up a really valid point. What about expenses? They're barely scraping by as it is. How can they possibly squeeze out 10%?
This connects perfectly to a concept we see in modern economics called Parkinson's Law. Arkad teaches them that what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we actively protest to the contrary.
Oh, absolutely. If you get a raise, suddenly you need better clothes, or a better chariot, or in our world, the premium streaming package.
Exactly. We constantly confuse wants with needs. Arkad argues that you have to draw a hard line. If you decide you are going to live on 90% of your income, eventually you just adjust. Your lifestyle will shrink or expand to fit the container you give it.
To teach this at scale, the sources take us to this place called the Temple of Learning, where Arkad actually holds a class for 100 men. This is where he outlines the 7 cures for a lean purse. Now, we've essentially covered the first 2. Fatten thy purse, that's the 10% rule, and control thy expenditures, which is the budgeting and separating wants from needs.
Then comes cure 3, make thy gold multiply. This is the critical shift from just saving to actually investing. You don't just want a pile of cash sitting in a chest doing nothing, you want a stream of income.
But then comes cure 4, and I have to say, this is where Arkad shares a personal failure that is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole text. Guard thy treasures from loss.
Oh, this is the classic blunder. Arkad tells his class about his very first investment. He had diligently saved up his 10% for an entire year, he was super proud of it, and then he gave all of it to a bricklayer named Esmor.
A bricklayer? Okay.
Yeah, he gave it to Esmor to travel to Phoenicia and buy rare jewels. His thinking was they'd bring them back to Babylon and sell them for a massive profit.
Let me guess. The bricklayer didn't know the first thing about jewels.
Precisely. Esmor was completely tricked. He bought these bits of colored glass that just looked like gems. Arkad lost absolutely everything.
That is brutal. A whole year of savings gone.
But the lesson is vital. Consult experts. If you want to know about sheep, go to a shepherd. If you want to know about jewels, do not ask a bricklayer. It sounds so obvious when you say it out loud, but think about how many people today take crypto advice from a random person on the internet.
Or stock tips from a neighbor who works in a totally unrelated field.
Exactly. It happens every single day. So guard your treasure from incompetence.
Okay, so what about the rest of the cures? We have 3 left.
They really round out a holistic financial life. Cure 5 is make of thy dwelling a profitable investment, which essentially means own your home so you can stabilize your living costs and improve your quality of life. Cure 6 is ensure a future income. So planning for old age and protecting your family if you're gone. Life insurance, basically.
And the final one?
Cure 7, increase thy ability to earn. This is huge. Invest in yourself. Learn more skills. In ancient Babylon, that meant learning to carve clay tablets faster or better. Today, it might be learning a new coding language or taking a management course. The more you know, the more you can earn.
So we have the mechanical rules. Save, budget, invest wisely, learn. But then the discussion in the Temple of Learning shifts to something I think everyone listening is probably obsessed with: luck. The goddess of good luck.
Right. All the students want to know how to attract her. Because people naturally think luck is winning at the gaming tables or betting on the horse races.
But Arkad shuts that down immediately. He says the odds are always rigged for the house. The gaming tables are for entertainment, not for wealth building.
Instead, he completely redefines what luck actually is. He tells these stories about a merchant and an animal buyer who missed out on fortunes. In both cases, they were presented with a very clear, highly profitable opportunity.
But they blinked.
Yeah. One hesitated because he wanted to buy new robes first, before committing his money. The other hesitated to pay a farmer at night for a flock of sheep, and by morning the city gates opened, buyers flooded in, and the price of the sheep had tripled.
So they didn't really have bad luck at all, they just had slow feet.
Exactly. Arkad's definition of luck is very specific. He says, good luck waits to come to that man who accepts opportunity. The true enemy of luck isn't some ancient curse, it's the spirit of procrastination.
That's a really powerful reframe for you listening. Luck is just action. It's seizing the moment when it's sitting right in front of you.
Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture of, say, generational wealth, we have to talk about Arkad's son, Nomasir. This segment introduces the 5 laws of gold.
This is such a classic coming-of-age story. Arkad is the richest man in Babylon, but he doesn't just hand his fortune over to his son. He wants to see if the kid actually has what it takes. So he gives Nomasir a bag of gold and a clay tablet with these 5 laws carved into it, and basically kicks him out of the nest for 10 years.
Nomasir has to go out and prove he can handle wealth. And initially, he fails miserably. He completely ignores the clay tablet. He thinks he knows better than his dad.
Typical.
Right. So first he bets on a sure thing horse race, which of course turns out to be a total scam. Then he partners with a guy to buy a shop, but the partner is lazy and just spends all their capital.
It sounds like Nomasir really hit rock bottom. The text says he even had to sell his clothes and his slave just to buy food.
He did. And that utter desperation is what finally drove him to actually read the clay tablet his father gave him. He realized he had started with the capital, the bag of gold, but he completely lacked the wisdom to keep it.
So he finally starts following the laws. Law 1, save 1/10. Law 2, find profitable employment for your gold. Make it work. Law 3, invest only under the advice of wise men.
And then laws 4 and 5 are essentially about avoiding unfamiliar businesses and impossible earnings. Basically, don't chase get-rich-quick schemes or put money into businesses you don't understand.
And once he applied these rules, everything turned around. He found a job supervising slaves, saved his copper coins diligently, and eventually got an insider tip from his supervisor about the city gates needing a massive amount of metal.
Because he had actually saved his money this time, and because he trusted the advice of a wise man in that specific field, he invested in the metal syndicate. When he returned to his father at the end of the 10 years, he didn't just bring back the original bag of gold, he brought it back filled, plus 2 extra bags of gold. He proved that wisdom protects wealth.
Speaking of protecting wealth, let's pivot to risk management. There's a really interesting story in here about a spear maker named Rodan. This guy wins the Babylonian lottery, essentially. The king gives him 50 gold pieces as a reward for a great spear design.
And suddenly, Rodan is the most popular guy in town. Everyone wants a loan, including his sister, who desperately wants the money so her husband can start a business as a merchant.
Rodan is super conflicted. He obviously wants to help his family, but he's terrified of losing this life-changing amount of money. So he goes to Manthon, the gold lender, for some advice.
Manthon is the expert's expert when it comes to risk, and he tells Rodan this parable about the ox and the ass. The ass tries to help his friend the ox by taking his place at the plow for a day, just so the ox can get some rest. But at the end of the day, the ass has a sore neck and a tired back, well, the ox just decides to play sick from now on because he likes the break.
That is a pretty harsh lesson. If you desire to help thy friend, do so in a way that will not bring thy friend's burdens upon thyself.
Manthon then physically shows Rodan his token box. It's this chest full of collateral from his borrowers. He explains the fundamental difference between safe loans and risky loans. A safe loan is given to someone who has property or a reliable income. A risky loan is given to someone with nothing but emotions or vague hopes.
And the brother-in-law definitely fell into that vague hopes category, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Manthon advises Rodan absolutely not to lend the gold unless the brother-in-law has a proven business plan and actual knowledge of being a merchant. You just don't risk your gold on a novice, even if he is family. The ultimate maxim here is better a little caution than a great regret.
That brings us to maybe the most dramatic story in the entire collection, and honestly, it's my personal favorite. The camel trader, Dabasir. This guy didn't just start poor, he started in a massive hole. He was deep in debt, fled Babylon to escape his creditors, and ended up getting captured and sold as a slave in Syria.
This is the ultimate story of redemption. Dabasir is at his absolute lowest point. He's a slave living out in the harsh desert. But one of his master's wives, Sira, challenges him one day. She looks at him and asks this incredibly piercing question. Does he have the soul of a free man or the soul of a slave?
Oof, that stings.
It does. She tells him that a free man faces his debts while a slave just runs away. That hits Dabasir so hard. He realizes his debts were his enemies, but by running from them, he basically let them conquer him. So he escapes.
And the escape is intense. He's starving in the desert, nearly dying of thirst. But he actually makes it back to Babylon. And this is where we get the actual practical formula for getting out of debt. It's written on these tablets that were supposedly found by archaeologists in the 1930s.
This formula is fascinating because it is mathematically highly specific. Davasir goes to Mathan, our gold lender friend from earlier, and sets up a plan. First, he determines he will live on exactly 70% of his income. That covers his family, food, clothing, all living expenses.
Okay, 70% for life.
Second, he saves 10%. Even while buried in debt, he still pays himself first.
Wait, so he saves money while he's actively in debt? That seems super counterintuitive. I think most financial advisors today would say throw every spare penny at the debt.
The authors, through Arkad and Davasir, argue that you need that 10% to feel like a free man. You need to have a stake in your own future. If you send every single coin to your creditors, you are still acting like a slave to your past mistakes.
That actually makes a lot of sense psychologically. You need to see some progress for yourself. So what happens to the debt?
The remaining 20% is dedicated strictly to the creditors. He divides it proportionally. He literally goes to every person he owes and says, look, I can't pay you everything right now, but I am going to pay you this 20% slice of my income every single month until it's gone.
And it worked.
It worked beautifully. It took time, but he paid off every single copper coin. The source material even includes this letter from a fictional archaeology professor in the 1930s, Alfred Shrewsbury, claiming he used this exact ancient Babylonian method to save himself from bankruptcy in England. It's a way to validate that the math holds up across millennia. 70% to live, 10% to keep, 20% to pay debts.
We're coming into the final segment here, and this is really about the overarching mindset behind all of this. We have the story of Shahrunada, who is a merchant prince. He's traveling across the desert with a young man named Hadan Gula.
Now, Hadan Gula is the very spoiled grandson of Shahrunada's old business partner. He's riding along wearing flashy jewelry and just complaining constantly. He genuinely believes work is for slaves. He thinks the entire point of wealth is to do nothing but enjoy leisure.
And Shahrunada drops a massive bombshell on him. He reveals that he himself was once a slave. He was sold into slavery because of his brother's crime and was literally chained to a plow.
This brings us to the lesson of Megiddo. Another slave named Megiddo taught Shahrunada that work is not the enemy. Work is actually the best friend a man can have. Megiddo told him, work makes me a better man.
Because Shahrunada took pride in his work. Even when he was a slave, baking cakes and selling them in the hot streets, he attracted the attention of free men. He attracted opportunity.
Exactly. Work is the key that unlocks the door to opportunity. Hadan Gula thought having money is what made you free, but Shahrunada taught him that the capacity and willingness to work is what truly separates the free man from the slave. If you rely solely on your pile of gold, you are fragile. But if you rely on your ability to work and create value, you are secure forever.
So let's bring it all home. We've been to the Temple of Learning, we've suffered in the desert of Syria, and we've walked the walls of Babylon. What is the core Babel wisdom we're asking you to take away today?
It really comes down to a few immutable laws. First, pay yourself first. That 10% is completely non-negotiable. Second, live within the remaining 70%. Third, if you have debts, use that middle 20% to systematically clear them. Fourth, always seek expert advice. Do not trust bricklayers with your jewels. And finally, embrace work. Don't look for the easy way out or the lucky break. Taking action is how you make your own luck.
It's amazing how relevant this still is today. I mean, we aren't trading camels out here, but we are definitely wrestling with credit card debt, get-rich-quick crypto schemes, and that constant temptation to spend every dollar we make.
The source material ends with a really poignant reference to the walls of Babylon. These massive walls protected the city for centuries from invaders. The author makes the point that financial discipline is your personal wall. Just as the city needed protection from outside armies, you need protection from tragedy, illness, or economic downturns. Your savings, your insurance, your investments, those are your walls. Without them, you are totally vulnerable.
That is a sobering but deeply empowering thought. You can build your own walls.
You can. It just takes the discipline to start with that very first copper coin or that first dollar.
So here's a question for you to chew on as you go about the rest of your day. It's the exact question Sarah asked Davasir in the desert. Do you have the soul of a free man or the soul of a slave? Are you letting your gold work for you, or are you working only to pay everyone else?
It is definitely a question worth answering.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.